So I don't know who may or may not follow other social media that I might have, but it's been a pretty shitty week. After what he thought was a low blood sugar incident on Wednesday, my dad rightly called me for help, and I met up with him, and I stayed with him until his numbers were better, but he knew he wasn't bouncing back the way he should have, and he had the good sense of mind to get himself to a quick care, and quick care had the good presence to have well-trained staff to get him straight over to the hospital. And it turned out he was having what the surgeon routinely described as a massive heart attack. Significant blockages, including a 100% blockage that required the immediate application of a stent. And unfortunately, he then had something called low flow phenomenon, which is, from what I gather, the surgeon said not wildly uncommon in a type 1 diabetic, which my dad is. So he had to go back in, basically, to the cath lab for a second visit. And he was in ICU until, I think, late Saturday. Early Saturday. And Saturday was my dad's 60th birthday. And Sunday was Father's Day. And today is Tuesday, and he should, in theory, be getting sent home today. And then, it's meds and adjusting meds and no work for a while and get yourself back up to speed. Which is an ask at any age when you have heart problems. When you're a 60-year-old type 1 diabetic, it's a significantly bigger ask. Especially for someone like my dad, who just genuinely does not know how to sit still. I mean, the man's a direct support professional. He works with the mentally and physically challenged and loves his job. And telling him to sit down and take a break when it's not him choosing to take a vacation, that don't fly so well. So, why am I recording and posting this? Well, in part to mention and document what happened to my dad, and in part to mention that during this, I've been doing my best to keep myself under control. I'm the kind of person who generally has what people would refer to as a Vulcan-like grip on her emotions. At least the people I deal with would call it that. And it doesn't mean I mean, much like the characters, the Vulcans, it doesn't mean I don't have emotions. It just means I've spent a long time teaching myself not to let them get the better of me. And for some reason, the people around me, with the exception of my almost 2-year-old and my almost 5-month-old, a lot of the people around me seem to think that means that I can be mistreated and taken for granted. That I don't feel the stress of the situation. I don't feel the weight of the situation. I don't feel in any sense unhappy or scared about the situation, which is just this side of the height of absurdity, if you ask me. I apologize for the camera angle, by the way. I'm in the car, as you may be able to tell. And I tried to do several helpful things, and some of the people involved have been nice, have expressed appreciation and gratitude, but some people, I did something that involved genuine physical labor, a repair that my dad had been meaning to get to and hadn't yet. And another person flatly told me I was wrong for doing it because, and I quote, I assumed you had someone else's permission to do it. Now, I'm sorry, but no matter how many family members live in one house, if someone comes and does genuine repair, driveway repair, maintenance repair, some significant thing to make life in the house easier and better functioning on their own dime and on their own time, explain to me, please, how you have the nerve to turn around and tell them they shouldn't have done it. Because I can't wrap my head around that concept. Because you live there too, and it benefits you just as much as anybody else. And you're going to turn around and land on me for doing something helpful and nice. I can't even. I can't even. In the light of everything going on this week, I can't even. And then there are other people in my life, different person, who decides this is the time to be making everything about them. Every fight is about, well, I don't feel I'm being heard and I don't feel I'm being treated right, followed immediately by telling me how it's my fault. How, yes, they picked the fight, but really I'm to blame for them picking the fight. You know what? Treating someone like that, wildly inappropriate and unacceptable under everyday conditions, which I deal with on a routine basis, for reasons that are currently eluding me and may soon evaporate altogether. But to do that to someone during this, the way this week has been, I mean, the only apt thing I can think to say is that it is genuinely beyond the pale. And I, like most people, appreciate it when someone apologizes. But let's be real. The use of vernacular applies, whether or not you admit it. And the fact is, actions do speak louder than words. You cannot apologize to someone repeatedly for the same offensive thing and expect to get away with it every single time you repeat that process. It doesn't work like that. Sane, functional human beings do not allow that to happen to themselves. You cannot be that way with me and think that it's, first of all, okay, and second of all, allowable. And beyond that, now that I'm a mom, I have significantly less tolerance for people engaging in that kind of illogical, irrational, nonsensible, potentially aggressive, sometimes passive-aggressive, ridiculous behavior in front of my children. Okay? You do not, and I've said this to many family members for a long time, and I know I started saying it a lot more vociferously when I was pregnant with my son, who amazingly turns 2 next month. You do not have any right to give my children the visual, the impression, or the lesson that it is okay to treat people in rude, disrespectful, dismissive, and in any fashion abusive connotation types of ways or manners, and think that you're going to be, pardon my hand, allowed to continue to demonstrate that kind of behavior. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to fly. It's not allowed. It's not sanctioned. I don't care how the hell you want to phrase it. The answer is no. And above and beyond that, amazingly enough, it has had to be stated to people, above and beyond that, if you are a family member and you treat another family member that way, you are done for with me. And if you treat their mother that way in front of them, I have a son and I have a daughter, I don't know if that's what they'll remain as they grow up, because they're not old enough to make that decision for themselves. But in either regard, you do not get to teach children that it is okay to treat a parent like that. You do not get to teach them it is okay to treat family like that. And I will not allow either of them to grow up believing in any way, shape, or form or respect that no matter what gender they are, they get to treat their partner that way. Okay? Because no matter what they end up doing with their life, if they end up getting married, it is not okay for them to think going into a marriage, going into a family environment where they might be a step-parent or become a parent with their partner, it is not okay for them to think that's the example. That's the way you should treat people. That's the way families are supposed to operate. I'll tell you right now, I grew up in that kind of house. That shit ain't gonna fly with me. It's not gonna be what they grow up with seeing. It's not gonna be what they grow up around near. And it's sure as shit not gonna be what they grow up thinking is normal. And this past week has been ridiculous and stressful and aggravating and disheartening and upsetting. And I really don't have it in me. I mean, I'm 33 now. I'm a mother of 2. I really don't have it in me anymore to allow several of the everyday behaviors that I was allowing. I mean, I won't go so far as to call them everyday atrocities or routine atrocities, but it's hard not to admit there is a cumulative effect. And you let the little things go in light of not wanting to have a fight that day or not wanting to continue a fight from before. But really, take a minute and step back. Stop and look at the whole situation. If your overall perception gets to be what mine is, where you're treating people in a friendly, compassionate, loving manner to any degree, and the cumulative overall response you expect is for someone to knock you for it and someone to give you negative and give you bullshit about the fact that you're doing these nice things and, oh, I don't deserve you, and, oh, well, you're just the most helpful person in the family. And okay, well, if you understand that, then why are you treating me like dirt under your boot? Explain to me, please, how the nicest person in the family is getting treated like, not even like a criminal, like someone who needs to be convinced they don't deserve to be here. Who, you know, I'm trying to be realistic with how I'm describing these things because I don't want to sound somehow extreme or extremist or something like that, because it's really not that bad. Truthfully, I grew up in a much more verbally and emotionally abusive situation than I'm describing how I feel this week has gone. But having gone through that childhood, I recognize it. And having gone through it again, I recognize I don't have any patience or tolerance for it anymore. And my dad is recovering, thankfully, and still here, and I want to be able to be simply happy about that. But it's very difficult when everywhere I turn, different family members are giving me crap for trying to be who I am, in the sense that I'm trying to be helpful and I'm trying to be supportive, and I'm not trying to go around and like broadcast to everyone, look what helpful thing I'm doing. I'm just trying to get these things done so that nobody has to worry about them, so that it's not 5 days later and it occurs to someone, oh shit, I should have done that, because I grew up in that situation. I grew up having to think of all of these fundamental realities and getting them dealt with, so that all that had to happen for the person in the hospital was that they had to recover. And there are family members who've expressed gratitude, but the fact that there are any who've given me shit for it, it confuses me so much. so much. And there are things I have in place which can now continue for Father's Day and Dad's birthday, and actually my husband's birthday, which is this coming weekend, the 25th. But after all that, I really have to stop. I really have to step back, because it's becoming abundantly clear that I'm just being taken for granted at a certain point. And it's not deserved, it's not worth it, it's not justified. So I'm just not gonna let it keep happening. Alright, well I am where I was headed, so I'm gonna stop recording now, but I had to get some of that off my chest. So if you've watched this all the way through, thank you. And if you've experienced anything similar, I'm sorry for you having had to experience that. I imagine you're in a similar position to mine. You're just trying to be nice, and you're trying to be helpful, and you're trying to handle the stress of the situation as productively as you can think to do it, which is all I've been trying to do.